There's more soil diversity in Sonoma County than all of France combined. Always trying to do subtle improvements, always trying to find that next great site. The best wines in the world are being made right now.
You can be elite and you can make world-class wine, but you don't need to be elitist.
Well, we take our wine serious, we don't take ourselves serious. That's kind of the mentality we have here.
And then 11 years later, you were Forbes 30 under 30 because you were the head winemaker at 29.
I was actually a little bit younger than that when
Tell me about the $1 million bottle.
it got up to about $480,000 between 3 different people who kept on bidding it up. And I knew those 3. And then out of the woodworks, someone who I didn't know stood up and offered $1 million, and the whole crowd goes nuts. From celebrity chefs of Emil Degassi and to Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel, Von Miller, the Super Bowl MVP, the Lakers organization, Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. Yeah, we've partnered with some amazing folks that are the best at what they do in their field. No, I think I still have so much to prove. Obviously, we've had incredible success, and like when I came to this area, really my focus was, of course, my craft, but giving notoriety to Bordeaux varietals in the region, and we started in the hills of Alexander Valley. There had never been a 100-point wine from the region's history, and the only winery in the United States to have perfect scores every vintage from 2018 to our current release is 2023.
What's your secret? Andy Katz, thank you so much for having me here today. I know your background is such a fascinating one. You don't come from a winemaking family, yet you just won Winemaker of the Year last year.
Okay.
Thank you for having me in your beautiful estate.
Thank you. Wonderful having you here at Aperture Cellars, right in the heart of Healdsburg.
Yeah.
Yeah, on this beautiful day.
Yeah, I know. It's absolutely stunning. So talk to me about Sonoma County.
Oh man, there is a lot to go through in Sonoma County. It is an exciting time for Sonoma County because I think we're still kind of understanding what is best suited in these little pockets that we have identified. Like Sonoma County has a tremendous amount of discovery. Like there's more soil diversity in Sonoma County than all of France combined. And then you layer on all these different microclimates that we have. Areas that are much cooler than Champagne as you get closer to the coast, and areas that are almost as warm as Bordeaux up in the Eastern Hills, and everything in between. So it's kind of this unique puzzle of putting together microclimates and soil types together, and then figuring out what you can kind of drive style in. And the Pacific Ocean influence, just to the west of us here, is significant everywhere here in Sonoma County because we have no mountain range to the west of us. Napa Valley, and I love Napa, still consult for brands out there, but you have the Mayakama Mountains to the west of you. Here, there's nothing blocking that coastal influence. So when, I don't know where you were this morning, but it was completely socked in here. All the fog comes in, it comes in at night, cools everything down, and then, you know, usually 8, 9 a.m., everything burns off. If you're up in the hills, it's probably 6 or 7 a.m. And so it really creates these unique climate that I think is so perfectly situated for grapes right now. And the heat of the day, we have these massive diurnal swings. So the heat of the day from the cool of the night.
Yeah, it's
and
freezing.
Yeah, so you need layers.
And you're sweating to the top.
Exactly. Shorts and short sleeves during the day. And then, you know, you can have your puffer jacket at night. But that's, to me, what is so exciting about it. It kind of helps slow everything down in the ripening cycle, holds on to acidity and maintains freshness in the wines. And what we've consistently seen is these warmer and drier vintages. And that's why I started Aperture. One of the reasons I started Aperture was to come to these sites that are a little bit less well known for the varietal sets. We're a Cabernet house, we're a Bordeaux house, and planting Cabernet Sauvignon right here in the Russian River, for instance, which everyone thought I was nuts when I was doing. And finding these little pockets that can kind of help slow down that season for me and put in sugar ripeness in balance with phenolic ripeness, tannin ripeness, flavor ripeness, which sometimes are a little bit elevated, where your sugar ripeness is ahead of those things. And to me, this gets us a little bit more in balance. And so it's a very exciting time. The wines coming out of this area, the knowledge that we have of this area, and like a lot of this Cabernet that I planted in 2019 here in the Russian River, where we are at the Aperture Estate, we have about 200 acres of estate vineyards, mostly up in the hills of Alexander Valley, but throughout 5 different AVAs. But Russian River here is our home. These are just starting to come into production. 2023 was really our first full production. So we're drinking some wines from that, for instance. That has a huge influence in these wines, and we're seeing how great and how fresh and the stylistic of wines that I love. A little bit higher in acid, a little bit lower in alcohol, but still all the textural elements that I love in the best Cabernet sites in California and the world.
Yeah, It's interesting because this kind of climate here with the morning fog that comes in, people would expect it's traditionally more of that kind of the Chardonnay, Pinot Noir territory. And then you've just come in and you've like gone very Bordeaux in your style.
Yeah, very much so.
Again, being the first generation of winemaking.
I didn't have a grandfather telling me how I needed to do things. So
Yes.
we can pivot quickly, and we can kind of create our own style here at Aperture. And that's definitely what I've leaned into.
Yeah, and you've traveled all over the world with your dad, who is the infamous photographer,
Yes.
Andy Katz.
Indeed, all of our labels have his images on there.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful kind of entanglement of kind of that legacy and the photography and art, and then what you're doing. So your winemaking you first got into winemaking and got the exposure to it when you were in Burgundy when you were like 12 years old.
Exactly. So I'm a kid from Colorado, so not born into this industry. My whole life growing up was traveling all over the world with my family. So by the time I graduated high school, I'd traveled to over 80 countries with my family, really like remote parts of the world through Africa and Southeast Asia. And in my early teens is when my father started doing his first projects in wine. And he went out to Napa and Sonoma, and he was commissioned to do a project out here for a restaurant that was opening up a very California-focused steakhouse and wanted pictures of the vineyards and wineries for the restaurant. And my dad didn't know anything about wine and came out here and not only was introduced to some amazing people, but just fell in love with wine, the culture, the beauty of it, of course,
And the
but
people.
and the people. Exactly. And during that time, some very influential people were, very accessible, even for a photographer who was just getting to know the area. And so Mr. Mondavi, Bob Mondavi, became very tight with my father and ended up writing his very first book. My father had never done a book, and Mr. Mondavi saw his beautiful images, and it was not on Mondavi. 5 years later, he ended up doing one just on Mondavi and Opus One before he sold it to Constellation. But it was about the beauty of Napa and Sonoma to highlight these gorgeous areas. And that kind of skyrocketed my father's career into the wine space. And now, fast forward, he's working on his, I believe, 20th book right now.
Wow.
12 of which are on wine, and his first 6 were all on wine. And so after Napa and Sonoma, he did a book with Robert Parker in Burgundy, and then Hugh Johnson in Tuscany, Jane Anson in Bordeaux. And that was my life as a kid. And, Napa and Sonoma, when I was like, yeah, I'll go, I'm ready to go anywhere with my folks. And Napa and Sonoma was boring because I was like, 8, 9. He usually does projects over 3 years to see multiple vintages, multiple seasons. And everyone was talking about this beverage, but I'm 8 or 9 years old. No one's offering it to me. Now 11 or 12 years old in Burgundy, glasses of wine start to show up, and I'm like, all right, this is cool. And what an amazing region to kind of get introduced to wine. Burgundy, for those who know, like the white wine's almost always Chardonnay, red wine being Pinot Noir. And I thought it was just fascinating how the same grape from the same winemaker, from the same vintage could be so vastly different from like one village to the next. And that sense of place was really impactful to me very early on. And I'd be out in the vineyards with my dad in the morning, and he usually takes photos at sunrise and sunset to capture the best light. And so I'd be with my father in the morning and in the evening taking photos, and then getting to taste those vineyards later on with the winemakers, and that was like that aha moment for me. But I'm 12 years old. I thought you had to be born into this into this industry, or make a lot of money and buy into it, and so I had no dreams of really that I could be a winemaker at that point. I thought I wanted to be a professional snowboarder, and then I realized I wasn't that good. And so I really got into winemaking when I went to business school in California. So I left Colorado when I was 18, moved to Santa Barbara, started working at wineries to get through business school, thinking this might be my only opportunity and needed a summer gig. So I was, cleaning floors and the grunt person, slowly made my way up and up, and saw that there was people around me who had degrees in viticulture and enology, words my counselors did not tell me about as a kid from Colorado. And at 18 years old, I knew exactly what I wanted to be. So at 18 years old, my pure focus was on becoming a winemaker. And that's been my dream and focus ever since.
And then 11 years later, you were Forbes 30 under 30 because you were the head winemaker at 29.
I was actually a little bit younger than that when I was 29 when I got that award, but I was recruited. So I'd started Aperture in 2009 when I was still at Screaming Eagle, then recruited from Screaming Eagle to take over as the head winemaker at a winery up in the hills here called Lancaster Estate, and then started Roth for them around that. And at the time, 2 weeks later, I turned 25, but I was 24 when they hired me. And 2 weeks later, I turned 25. So I was the youngest winemaker in the United States at the time. And to tell you a story. So I'm 2 weeks into the job, going out to do my first winemaker dinner ever, pouring wines that I had nothing to do with, clearly. And I'm getting ready to speak to about 50 people, nervous out of my mind. And I raise the glass to like ding it to get everyone's attention. And the waiter comes over and asks for my ID. So from there on out, I grew a beard. But that was just an amazing experience to kind of go from one of the culty Napa wines over here, and then slowly grew Aperture until I went off completely on my own in 2015. I still consult for brands throughout Oregon, Napa, and Sonoma, but obviously this is my baby.
Yeah, it's incredible. And you have so many accolades that have achieved so much from such a young age, yet you've kept that kind of humility and humbleness. And I find with a lot of the people that I've met here, I think like the phrase, like you can be elite and you can make world-class wine, but you don't need to be elitist.
Well, we take our wine serious. We don't take ourselves serious. That's kind of the mentality we have here. We are obsessed with the art of winemaking and our craft here, and we'll do every little detail to make sure that's perfect. But let's not forget how lucky we are to be in this amazing industry, that most of the interactions people have with our wine are around the dinner table with their friends and family, around celebration. I feel so honored that I have so many people coming to me, hey, we poured this at our son or daughter's wedding. We have this every year at our anniversary. We pour this at Christmas every year, whatever it may be. Like, how fortunate are we to be in that situation? So let's focus on making sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure these wines are perfect, but let's not take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah, but what you guys do, and it really is a gift.
I agree too. For me, like, I am so obsessed with this. It's clearly a part of my identity and everything that I do. And I feel so fortunate to be able to have this as my profession, because I couldn't think of anything better suited from what I love to do. It's kind of this morphing of, like, all morning before I got here, I was out in the vineyard. Then we'll do
Yes, I know
fun
you're
little
dusting
things
off your boots before you came in.
Before I don't want to get the chairs all dirty here. And it's this kind of intersection of art, science, and agriculture. And then, of course, there's the fascinating sales, marketing, finance side of things. So it's really well suited for my ADD brain.
Yeah, I'm the same with
Yeah.
you. And speaking of marketing, I think you do such an amazing job at that kind of luxury positioning and really kind of playing in that space. Tell me how you balance kind of what you do in the vineyards, but how you see kind of wine and marketing moving forward.
Well, and obviously there's an incredible team behind me that is driving the ship with me. It all starts, like, the story of Aperture all starts at the vineyard, and being a first generation winemaker, not coming from money or coming from this industry, the best sites in Napa Valley have been found. You're not going to find the next Screaming Eagle, Harlan, Tokelon, Pritchard Hill. Like, those sites have been found. And you're paying a premium for people who've already identified the best sites and proven their success. Sonoma County, there's still a little bit of a wild, wild west, and there's areas that we're redefining what's being farmed. For instance, this was never planted to Bordeaux varietals until we took over, or redefining how things can be farmed and identified. So part of it's kind of this fun entrepreneurial element that people can kind of gravitate towards. Obviously, stylistically, I think it has been playing into what people are looking to try and drink more as well. A little lower alcohol, a little higher in acidity, very, very food-friendly wines, even for as rich and decadent as they are. The other part, of course, is telling the story of the parent-child. My father's art on the label, and being introduced to wine through art brings a whole level of storytelling as well. And I think what we look for is collaborations and looking to partner with people to talk about wines in very different ways. Not everyone is born into this industry. Finding out about wine can be somewhat intimidating. And so how do we break down those walls and bring new people into this industry? Because it is fascinating and wonderful industry. Yeah. And the more people we can bring into this and bring on this journey and tell the benefits of wine, tell why wine is unlike any other beverage in the world, and gives you a sense of place and sense of time, the unique pairings of food and wine. There's so many different things that people can gravitate towards, and how do we tell that story and break into new new people, new faces to get into this amazing industry.
Yeah, and you've also done some work with partnerships and collaborations with celebrities.
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's kind of the whole doubling down on that, is using other people's voice to tell our story, and vice versa. So athletes, celebrities, sports organizations, we all have collaborated with them. Often there's also a charitable tie. And so we understand what fortunate position we are to be in this amazing industry. And so how can we kind of tie these things to give back? And so over the last 6-7 years, I think we've raised over $8 million for different charities as well. So it's really kind of full circle, so we can kind of highlight the celebrity, the individual, the organization, ourselves, and the charity.
Can you throw out, like, what kind of celebrities have you done?
From celebrity chefs of Emeril Lagasse and to Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel, Von Miller, the Super Bowl MVP, the Lakers organization, Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton, but yeah, we've partnered with some amazing folks that are the best at what they do in their field, and can, we see their level of precision and dedication and hard work that goes into that. And so there's really fun kind of parallels into our dedication, what we're doing.
And tell me about the $1 million bottle.
The $1 million bottle. Yeah, so that was with Emeril Lagasse for his charity at Carnival de Vin, which is their largest gala in New Orleans, where obviously Emeril kind of started his career and is from. And every year we are very much involved in this charity. It's for children's organizations all over. And we had sold a normal 750 milliliter bottle, for $375,000 2 years prior. So we had the right collectors. There's a lot of people who had been garnering our wines. And I think the key thing where we see these big values coming in with these, of course, charity has a huge part to do with it. But the other is something that is truly exclusive of one of one. So I saw the demand, and so I decided to make a one of one bottle. It was the first 6 liter, so double magnum, of our first single vineyard Cabernet from this site. And so we got it there was a lot of buzz, and Emerald obviously hyped it up quite a bit, and it got up to about $480,000 between 3 different people who kept on bidding it up. And I knew those 3 people. And then out of the woodworks, someone who I didn't know stood up and offered $1 million, and the whole crowd goes nuts, and everyone's going crazy. And the auctioneer's like, "Can we get 1.1?" And no one said anything after that. But that set the record for most expensive bottle ever sold, and 100% of it all going to charity.
And all to a great cause.
All to a great cause.
I guess I got chills. That's amazing.
It was incredible. Yeah, it was a really magical moment.
I could not imagine being in that room. It would be like electrifying.
It was nuts. It was going crazy. People were just out of their seats screaming. It was really cool.
Like, what do you think the next 20 years looks like?
Oh, we're just getting going. Like,
I know.
This is we're just at the tip of the iceberg here.
And you're a high achiever.
No, I think I still have so much to prove. Obviously, we've had incredible success. And like when I came to this area, really my focus was, of course, my craft, but giving notoriety to Bordeaux varietals in the region. And we started in the hills of Alexander Valley. There had never been a 100-point wine from the region's history. And it's been a 50-year history plus. We've received those. We have 43 100-point scores now. No one else has one.
I was going to say, I was trying to look at it. I was like,
ever changing.
Yes.
And the only winery in the United States to have perfect scores every vintage from 2018 to our current release is 2023.
What's your secret?
Obsession of what we do. And I think also the region, my secret is, of course, there's so many great winemakers, great wineries out here, but I have every single year just such a unique palette to work with, because we have all these different microclimates, all these different soil types. And so in the warmest drought season to the coolest wet seasons, I have different blocks that are going to come out and shine. So it just gives me more versatility when it comes to blending and winemaking. And I designed one of the most state-of-the-art wineries. We have a lot of unique things.
In the top 50 best wineries. It's beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, it's not only is it gorgeous, what's inside is just spectacular. And so we created new ways of extracting, adding oxygen through fermentation. And so it is not taken the human element out of it. It's actually expanded my artistic ability and the team's artistic ability of how to extract, when to extract, because We can do things throughout the night. We can do, like, normally when a wine comes in and, you know, all the color is coming from those skins. As the fermentation starts and the yeast are eating the sugar and turning it into alcohol, CO2 is a byproduct. So all those skins rise to the top. So normal wineries can do that, mixing, pumping over, punching down, however you're doing it, 2 to 3 times a day. I can do it 24 times in a day if I want. So we really kind of expanded how we can extract, looking at extraction, understanding that, these unique microclimates. So just trying to always fine tune our craft and then improve on it. So I would say, and having the most amazing team. We have the best team in the business. So all those things kind of tie into why some of the reasons we have been successful.
Yeah, I always say it's very hard to make like a good kind of tomato-based sauce with terrible tomatoes, and the produce kind of stirs. But in terms of your winemaking styles, like, do you experiment with different vessel types? I know you have a really interesting approach to your Sauvignon Blanc, right? With the way that you...
Our Sauvignon Blanc is definitely inspired from the Bordeaux Blancs. It started off all barrel fermented, about a third new oak. Some barrels that I saw while in Bordeaux at Haut-Brion, which are French oak bodies of the barrels, but the heads are toasted acacia wood. So we have those actually specifically made in Bordeaux, shipped out for those. It brings this very unique minerality and spice to it. 3 years ago, started playing with concrete into the white wines. Chenin Blanc sees a significant influence of that. The Sauvignon Blanc is usually about 5 to 10%, which is an amazing vessel that still allows the wine to breathe because it's porous. We don't coat it, but obviously much less so than oak, and giving no oak flavor and giving this unique kind of structure or minerality pop to the wine. I don't like it 100%, but as part of the blend can really add a unique complexity to it. And I'm even starting to age some red wines in concrete as well, for those same reasons. Always trying to bring freshness, structure, and bringing different textures through different vessels. So we will ferment in stainless steel, French oak, and concrete, and we'll age in all those vessels as well.
Yeah. So you make primarily Cabernet Sauvignon and Sauvignon Blanc, so very Bordeaux-based styles, in a place that is known for its Chardonnay and Pinot Noir.
Russian River. Welcome to the Russian River, where we're sitting right here.
So talk me through like your process of even finding those like plots.
Yeah, I think, you know, having the unique global perspective of not only traveling the world with my family growing up to all these different wine regions, but also in the early part of my career, traveling all over the world from Bordeaux to Argentina, throughout California. And so I had this kind of unique global perspective of seeing, and really I had the amazing honor of working with some of the best vineyards, best winemakers, best estates in the world. And so in seeing how these vineyards and winemakers are making it at the top level in vastly different soil types and vastly different climates, gave me kind of a different perspective of how to look at vineyard sites. And again, Napa was kind of out of my budget, out of reach, and I wasn't going to be able to make the name for myself out there because of all those reasons. The best sites have already been found, and the barrier of entry into there is so significant. So I really started up kind of obsessing with soils and kind of understanding that. So this property, we're on 40 acres right now. I started researching and had a pretty good understanding of the climate, the big diurnal swings that we would have here, the influence of the fog, the coast. But what's really important is having an understanding what's underneath our feet. So on this property, the 56 soil pits down to 8 feet in depth. And so not only did I have an understanding of the unique climates, also the unique soil types. We have 11 different soil types on this property. And so really identified what I thought the rootstock, clone, and varietal would be best situated for this. And always looking for these sites that are kind of borderline right now. Like, we want to push the limits of what can get ripe and kind of stretch that season out, and really think about this, what we're planting is for the next generation. And it's a little bit more of an old world kind of mentality. And so my goal is, hopefully to be able to pass this down at some point. And I think this will be one of these iconic vineyard sites. We're seeing what the success of them now, but in 10, 15, 20 years from now, this is going to be one of these sites that people are talking about.
Yeah. I would say, what's one of your like key drivers? I feel like legacy is definitely
legacy, and just, you know, I love the art of the winemaking and the craft of it and how we can continue to fine tune. And it's one of these things. I know I have not made my best wine yet. I don't know if I ever will.
You can't go any higher than 100.
Yeah. But that's Not yet. I want that 101 point score. I want the first of those. But I know just personally, critical acclaim aside, and I'm so thankful for the vast critical acclaim we've gotten pretty much amongst every single critic. But I just know it will be a lifelong pursuit of what I'm trying to do and trying to perfect this craft that I will never be able to. But always trying to do subtle improvements, always trying to find that next great site, always trying to find how we can make unique changes that hopefully will the next generation not only can learn from, but from grow off of, just as I have with previous generations as well. The best wines in the world are being made right now because we have better technology, we have better understanding and knowledge, thanks to everyone who's done it ahead of us. So undoubtedly standing on the shoulders of those ahead of me, and hopefully I can be a piece of that for the next generation as well.
Yeah, and in terms of kind of this next wave of the way that wine is communicated, what do you think that the wine industry needs to change in order to kind of get more people talking about wine again?
Yeah, well, this is very timely. I'm sure you're having this conversation with a lot of people because the wine industry is going through its hurdles right now. I think some of it is a correction, but some of it is we need to rethink how we're talking about wine, to your point. I think there's a lot of brands that are selling a very similar product and a very similar story that needs to kind of maybe rethink what they're doing. And obviously the proof is in the pudding, so you have to have the product in the glass, but tie in your story and bring in other people, bring in people into the conversation that might not normally bring in. These collaborations have been a huge part of that storytelling, and maybe someone who doesn't know about wine, but follows Jessica Biel, and all of a sudden that is the way they find their way into wine because she's able to talk about it in this beautiful way that is a different voice from me. And also, let's break down barriers. Let's be more inclusive in this industry and bring more people into this conversation, talking about wine, and not have this kind of taboo, oh, if you feel dumb about asking a question, I hate that. Bring your dumb questions. That was me as a kid. Thankfully, I had to.
You have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere. And whether that's introduced to your parents, and we don't always have that opportunity, through a work colleague, through a friend, through following someone on social media, whatever it may be, start learning about it because it is a fascinating thing. And there is no other agricultural commodity that I can think of that is so focused and so dedicated to what we do to the land. And we know how important the land is. And I think in the world of sustainability and what we're doing, the vineyards in the top level are doing it better than anyone.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And so I think I would love to try this.
Shall we? All right, let's dive in.
What do we have?
All right. Here, actually, you take that one. I'm going to take this one because I switch it up a little bit. I have the Bordeaux blend, but you have the Cabernet Sauvignon, which is the bottle we have right here, and kind of our flagship wine. When I started the brand back in 2009, it was just this one wine, and now we have, of course, a whole portfolio of aromatic whites, single vineyard cabs. But this is our 2023 Cabernet Sauvignon, mostly estate fruit from across our 200 acres of vineyards that we now have on 5 different AVAs. But this vineyard right behind you, this Cabernet Sauvignon, went into this blend. Our largest estate vineyard, Faro Ranch, up in the hills of Alexander Valley, is going into that. Usually this blend is 95 to 85% Cabernet Sauvignon, a little Merlot, a little Malbec, all coming from volcanic soils, in barrel for 18 months, and this saw about 50% new oak from the brilliant 2023 vintage, which was a very cool vintage out here, which I love.
Yeah, I do love that kind of more cool climate wines, especially with Cab Sauv being the predominant variety, and you get this very linear, astute kind of nature, but with all the fruit, it marries so beautifully together.
And that's what I love about this. Like these sites, especially in a vintage like 23, which is very cool. We picked all the way to November 7th this vintage, which is very, very late for us. Very rare. I think in my career twice I picked into November.
Especially that Cab Sauv.
Yeah.
Like in this area, it's crazy.
But we have these wines. We're able to extend this growing season, but still maintain to the acidity. And so you have phenolic ripeness, tannin ripeness, texture ripeness, but lower alcohol, higher acid. So they're very in balance. And that's kind of part of our secret sauce here.
Yeah.
And unmanipulated. I don't fine, filter, acidify, water back these. This is all Mother Nature, and we're just guiding it.
It is nature in a glass.
Absolutely. Yeah. And bring people together. And what I always think about, when you taste a wine, where is it from? Have people think about, and whether it's a blend, this is in a single vineyard wine, sometimes it's a specific place. these are unique vineyard sites throughout Sonoma County. What year is it? What are you going to eat with this? Like all these different things that wine can kind of tie different elements of your life to.
Yeah, and I think describing and talking about wine, people get very intimidated.
Yeah.
The amount of rooms I've been in with winemakers, no one talks about being like, oh yeah, you get this particular node like this, and this. You might touch on it, but typically it's about how it feels in your mouth.
Texture. It's such a key part about it. And like, even if you want to ask, like, is that blueberry? Is that black? Well, who cares? Like, what is it to you? And they're like, start experimenting. And for those who are just getting into wine, like, taste a lot of different styles of wine, and maybe, all right, have a Cabernet day, invite some of your friends over and get a Cabernet from Sonoma, Napa, Australia, Bordeaux, and see the uniqueness of what a sense of place does to it. And how the same varietal can be expressed in such vastly different ways, depending on where it's grown and, of course, who's making it. But that's a fun way to kind of get to understand what your palate is, because that's really the most important part of it. Figure out what you like, the varietals you like, the regions you like, the winemakers you like, and follow them. And then eventually, figure out the critics. We have a lot of different critics in this world. Some are very aligned with what I love, and when they love a wine, oftentimes I love it. Some critics, when they love a wine, I know I'll hate it. In general, like regions, varietal, and winemakers, once you find one of those that you like, lean into that.
Yeah, I do love like a cool climate like Cab Sav, because most people think that Cab Sav needs to be with food. Like this is,
it's
elegant.
like
it is elegant. I want to be like wrapped up in a blanket, like with like the rain out in the forest in a cabin, and just drink that whole bottle just looking out.
Absolutely.
And like, it doesn't need anything else.
And what I love about, this vintage in particular, but really all of our wines, like you think it's going to be this big, bold thing, but then it just leaves your mouth like elegant, grace. There's nothing clamping down. There's nothing astringent to it. It just kind of dances across the palate.
I talk about wine so weirdly. Like I describe it like it's a humanoid. I'm like, it's like, it is feminine. Like, and people think Cab Sav is very masculine and like,
no, it does not have to
spicy.
be.
And Cab Sav, in my opinion, it's like a female with a backbone. It's like a woman who knows what she wants, but she's got grace and elegance as well. And that's how I would describe it.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
Of course, absolutely.
Oh yeah. Thank you. This
Yeah.
is fucking delicious.
Isn't that great? Thank you.